All right, guys, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can create a more elaborate animation than just what we did with the wolf eyes, with the eyes glowing. So an animation that I made, I just came up with something fun to do and decided to come up with these, see if I can show it to you, these pineapples that are dancing around, just to kind of show you different ways you can add more than one object into your animation, have them move around, have them look like they're jumping. You can have a new object transition in, just like that one there. And then, of course, you can always add fun text to it as well. So that is what I made, just to give you an example of different things that you can do. And the most important thing is having some general idea of what you want to accomplish, what you want to have moving around for your animation, and then figuring out exactly how to layer it out in your timeline. So if I open my timeline up and show you that each frame I gradually move my objects in, have them change position, so I will have one up and move it down, and then the next frame I shift it slightly, which is what all animation is. It's just taking one object and then you have to have movement or the illusion of movement by changing the position. And then the faster and the more changes you have, the more it looks like it's a coherent, cohesive piece. So this one here with the big pineapple, I was changing the opacity for that layer as it was coming up. And then when I was doing my tweening, I was changing the opacity as well. So I also did that with the text box. So that came in. So let me show you some of the basics for doing that. Just like we had with the wolf eyes, you have your object on your desktop, whatever it is you want to work with. So I started with a background image, drag that in and position it the way I need it to go. It will look a little bit pixelated at first. Depending on the resolution of your main image that you get, it might be very pixelated. So you might have to find better images with better resolution. Then I'm just going to go ahead and crop it to get rid of all that extra space outside of it. Remember, if you have this symbol here, you cannot modify this image until you tell the computer to rasterize it. So you do a right click on the name and then do rasterize layer. Now that's gone, I can actually manipulate these pixels. Then I found another image of what I wanted, brought that in, rasterized it, and this has all of those 5 pineapples together. So what I did was I took my quick selection tool and I just selected each pineapple and did Command J because that makes a copy. So now you see I just have a copy of what I selected, which was just that one individual pineapple. I did that for all 5 of those pineapples so that I would have an individual pineapple to deal with and manipulate. You do have to be careful what you're getting. So Command J, now I have another copy of that pineapple, which is right here. And I just kept doing that. I also got this pineapple image in here, brought that in, rasterized it. You can select the pineapple or your main object, whatever it is, and then you can always do select inverse and then Command X, and that cuts away that background. So now I just have that. And let me show you some of the basics for bringing your objects in. So I started with my pineapples kind of off to the side because I wanted them to look as though they were moving onto the screen. So I have my first layer. If you don't have your timeline open, remember you just have to come up here, to Window, click on Timeline, and you'll have to do Create Frame Animation if it doesn't show up. And then click on that button. It says Create Frame Animation. You'll get this. So I'm going to add a new layer, and then I'm going to move my first pineapple over. And then I'm going to do another layer. And now I'm going to move my second pineapple over. I do a new layer, and I just keep moving them little by little. You can also change their position so it looks like they're kind of jumping around. New frame, keep moving them. Oops, not letting me get that one. New frame, keep on moving them. All right, and let's see what we've got so far. So going back to frame 1, you can see now that they're moving. So it's kind of fast. So if you remember with the wolf eyes, we use this thing called tweening. You'll notice that my pineapples did not stay quite the way I had them, because on this first one, I thought I had this red one out a little bit more. And notice that now it's not quite as done. Notice that they're all sticking together. And there's a reason why that is. And I actually wanted to show you that this is messing up, and I wanted to show you why it's messing up. Whenever you do a frame, it just makes a copy of what you had before of all those objects. So it keeps starting what I had. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's not keeping the objects the way that I want them to be, because it's trying to put them back to where that location was when I first made that frame. So a way to get out of that, to make your animations look better, I'm going to actually delete all of these frames. Yes, delete. Is to instead make a copy of an object, and then you alternate between an object that's visible and not visible. For example, I'm going to make a copy of this pineapple here, and then I want to make a copy of this pineapple here. Command J is how you do that if you forgot. And I'm going to turn those copies off, and let's start it again. All right, so I'm going to do a new frame, and this time I'm going to turn off the original ones. Whoops, I lost one. There it is. And now they've moved. Now I'm going to turn another frame. I'm going to turn off my copies and get my originals. And this time I'm going to move them. And because I want them looking as though they're actually moving, it's a little too much. Got to kind of play around with it. That looks better. And now I'm going to tween. So I'm going to select those two, and I'm going to tween. I want position. So I'm just going to do a couple frames, just 3. So it shows a more gradual process. And I want to tween this one. Oops, I don't know what happened there. Wrong button. This one and this one. I'll add some more. And between these two, I'll tween that one. All right, let's see how that goes. Did not work. Do not know why it didn't work. For some reason I didn't tween the right ones. Sorry guys. Animation is time consuming. Let's try this again. All right, I'm going to add another one. Let's see if this will now work the way I want it to. So this is something that's going to take you guys some time, and that's okay. Let me try to tween this now. All right, I don't know why it's not tweening. Let's add another one. Swapping my copies. And another one. And it gradually will show that they're moving. There we go. So we're going to keep on doing that. Let me show you how to do a text feature. You can add a text feature in. So over here is how you determine which text you want. I use that marker one, was kind of cool. I just typed in whatever I want for it. You can change whether it's lined to the left, centered, or to the right. You can change the color over here. So pick a cool color that you like. Oops, you got to select it, sorry. If it doesn't do it, try selecting it. There we go. You can have it curved. So warp it. I'll make it look wavy. There we go. You can do all those factors for it. Try not to do the 3D because that'll mess it up and it gets really, really nuts and crazy. So I recommend, unless you want to be frustrated, don't deal with the warp. Trying to resize it. Remember, all of our objects that we have, we can do effects to it. So if I come over here and right click and do blending option, I can do a glow to it. So I don't want a red glow. Let's see if it'll let me do kind of a gold glow to it. I can't really tell that it's there. I don't think it's selected it. Let me try one more time. Do a purple glow. I don't want that. There we go. So I just had to get my opacity bigger. But now you can see that I've got a bit of a glow on there. So there's all these cool things that you can do to it. If I wanted to add an outline to it, I could. That's obviously too much. So all these cool things that you can try out and see and add to your animation. So you can make it grow if I wanted to do another frame. Oh, here's where I wanted to show you. So notice that I added that in there. Got to accept it. And it showed up on all of them, and then on that fourth frame, the effect finally took place. So if you don't want it to show up here, you can always hide it on that frame. And then you got to make it visible again on the last one. You could have it show up there and then have it maybe gradually get bigger. So you just got to go in and alter each frame. And that's really where it gets frustrating, is all this altering of your frames. So that's why it's a good idea to make sure you have in mind at the onset what you want it to be, so that as you're building each frame, you'll have some idea of what you want. And it did not do what I wanted to do. See how it all is the same size instead of changing it? So if I wanted it to be a different size, guess what I got to do? Copy that, and then I got to change on each frame a new object with different aspects. So if you're going to be changing your aspects, just go ahead and make a new copy so that it will only show those new aspects. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I'm not explaining it very well. There you go. All right, so now if you're going to want to add sound, after you figure out all of your frames and you have it the way that you want, then add your sound. Do not add sound until you are sure you have your animation the way that you want it to be. Don't forget you can make each one last a little bit longer than the other ones. So then you don't have to add nearly as many frames. You're lengthening the time with it. But once you do have it the way that you want, you're going to click this button here, which is convert to a video animation. And this is where, if you scroll all the way down here at the bottom, you can add an audio track. You need to have music ready to go to add it onto the computer or to add it into here. So what I did is I played some music on my iPad, and then I used QuickTime Player, which is what I'm using for this video right now. I used QuickTime Player to do a audio recording. So I played the music from my iPad, recorded it to the computer, and then I saved that as a music file. You can always AirDrop if you have a song on your iPad that you've saved or maybe you created using GarageBand. You can AirDrop that to your computer, to your Mac, and as long as you have that sound file, you just do Add Audio. I would save it to your desktop just to make it easier, and click Open, and then it'll add it in there. So when I did my recording at the very beginning, I'm going to go all the way back. Make sure that I have volume so you can hear it. At the very beginning, it didn't play. So it doesn't play until all the way back here. So what I would have to do is you can actually cut right there. I hit cut and I divided the music into two parts. So now I'm going to select this part here. Notice that this part, can move over, is not selected. There's not that mark around it. And then I just hit delete, and delete that section of the music. I go all the way back. My video is so short. And now the music starts sooner. So you can cut, you can resize your audio. If you want to duplicate it, because you do want your video to be longer, just make sure it's selected. Get your drop down button there and do duplicate audio clip. And then that way you can just have a loop of it, which is what I did over here with this one here. So again, make sure you have 2 copies. Build each frame. You can add frames because that's what I did. Once I got a couple frames that I liked, once they were jumping around, I just duplicated those frames, so it's just the same thing over and over again to give that illusion of movement. So now they're jumping. I did one where they were this position, then one where they're that position, duplicated it several times to add more frames to it, and then same with over here. He's facing that way, and then back. So it's just a repetition, kind of like a flip book, going back and forth, flipping through your frames. All right, I know this was longer than what I wanted it to be, but hopefully you guys get some general idea. Play around with it, have fun, and see what you can create.